Here's what I would do if I wanted to create some angry young white men who would carry out mass shootings, and if I had a certain amount of power in society, of course. Number one, I would promote the widespread use of antidepressants that are known to have, in some cases, the side effect of fomenting violent behavior, and I would not legislate laws barring people on such medications from obtaining guns, even though such laws would be widely approved of even by most NRA members. Number two, after getting rid of Martin Luther King Jr., as my buddies did, I would make the civil rights leaders do a 180-degree turnaround, and instead of calling for an end to racial discrimination, I'd have them call for government-enforced racial discrimination, affirmative action, with higher test scores required for whites than for non-whites to get a job or a school admission. And at the same time, I would dramatically increase the prison incarceration of non-whites, and only non-whites, in order to portray them to whites as a criminal class. I would let white working class people hear for a few decades essentially this message, quote, "We're sorry we couldn't give you the position or admission you applied for. We had to give it to a less qualified minority person," unquote. Then I would have all the so-called, quote, anti-racist, unquote, liberal media declare that any white person who agreed with Martin Luther King Jr. that a person should be judged by the quality of their character and not the color of their skin is a racist. I would do this to ensure that white working class people would conclude that anti-racism was really code for anti-white. I would promote, for number three now, I would promote the big lie, and yes, it is a lie, that white working class people benefit from racial discrimination against non-whites. I would do this by replacing the phrase racial discrimination, which properly points the accusing finger at the person or institution doing the discriminating, with the phrase white privilege, which wrongly points the accusing finger at ordinary white people just because they're white. Number four, I would also promote the idea that ending discrimination against women meant declaring men to be the enemy just because they were male. And just to make sure, I would secretly do things to force people south of our border to have to illegally immigrate here just in order to survive. And I would threaten them with deportation if they objected to working for very low wages and horrible working conditions. And I would pretend that I didn't want these illegal immigrants and was doing all I could to stop them from crossing into our border, across our border. And I would tell the white workers in construction and similar jobs who now have to compete with this cheap labor or find different work that their enemy is the illegal immigrants who are invading the United States just because they want our good life and don't want to make a good life in their own country like they ought to. Number six, after doing All of the above, and seeing the fruits of my labor in the form of a shocking number of mass shootings by angry young white men, I would orchestrate a public debate about whether to ban so-called, quote, assault, unquote, weapons, knowing that this will be a maximally divisive debate. And I would then write sanctimonious editorials in my mass media about how to stop the hate. Not that I would ever actually do such a thing, right? Please see the articles I've linked below. You have to tap on the word description in some devices to do that. And read the articles that back up what I've been saying here. I think you'll find them very interesting. Thank you.